A young billionaire receives a call from an unknown number. "Hi, Dad. Can you come pick me up from school, please?" Certain that it's a mistake. After all, he has no children. He's left speechless when he hears what the boy says next. Jack Thompson was gazing at Manhattan through the glass walls of his penthouse office. At 30 years old, he commanded a corporate empire that made the financial market dance to his tune. The sunset painted the sky in orange hues, reflecting off the mirrored skyscrapers that stretched as far as the eye could see. His moment of contemplation was interrupted by the insistent vibration of his phone on the desk. Unknown number. Jack hesitated. Years of experience had taught him that unidentified calls rarely brought good news. Still, something about that particular moment compelled him to answer. Jack Thompson. "Hi, Dad. Can you come pick me up from school?" The world stopped. The whiskey glass he was holding slipped from his fingers, shattering on the marble floor. The child's voice on the other end made his heart skip a beat. Who is this?" he managed to stammer, his usually firm voice now unsteady. "I'm Noah. I'm 5. The small voice held a tone of urgency mixed with fear. "My teacher, Miss Sarah, is helping me call because my mom, Emily, didn't pick me up today. She's sick." Emily. That name instantly took him back 6 years. The summer in Paris that had changed his life, though he didn't know it at the time. Candlelit dinners, strolls along the Seine, whispered promises under a starry sky. And then, her sudden disappearance that had never made sense. Until now. Noah. The name came out as a whisper. 5 years. His mind automatically did the math, each number like a hammer blow to his conscience. "Where exactly are you?" While the boy gave him the school's address, Jack was already on the move. His body acted on instinct, while his mind whirled with a storm of thoughts. Dad. He was a dad. The word echoed in his head like a deafening bell. "I'm coming to get you right now, Noah. Don't go anywhere." On the way to the school, his hands gripped the Bentley steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. For the first time in years, the powerful Jack Thompson was completely out of control. Memories of Emily flooded his mind. Her enigmatic smile, the way she fiddled with the emerald pendant she always wore, their talks about the future. How could she have hidden something so important? The elementary school building soon came into view, a cheerful structure that seemed to mock his chaotic state of mind. In the playground, a single child waited, sitting on a red bench, a Spider-Man backpack at his feet. Next to him, a woman who must have been Ms. Sarah kept a protective hand on his shoulder. Jack got out of the car on shaky legs. Each step toward the boy felt like an eternity. When their eyes finally met, it was like looking into a mirror of the past. The same cobalt blue eyes, the same unruly brown hair, even the small birthmark near the right eyebrow, a Thompson family trademark. "Dad." Noah's voice trembled slightly, a mixture of hope and fear that broke Jack's heart. "Hi, Noah." It was all he could manage to say, his throat tight with emotions he had never experienced before. The boy stood up hesitantly, then, in a sudden impulse, ran and hugged Jack's legs. The simple, pure gesture tore down Jack's last defenses. He knelt down to the boy's level, his son, and returned the hug, feeling the little body tremble slightly against his own. "Ms." Sarah approached and explained the situation. Emily had been rushed to the hospital that morning. Before losing consciousness, she had told a neighbor to look for Jack's card in a special box. The frightened boy had insisted on speaking to his father personally. As Jack signed the necessary documents to take Noah, 1,000 questions piled up in his mind. Why had Emily kept it secret for so long? How serious was her illness? What would his life be like now, with a 5-year-old child he had just met? In the car, Noah talked about his mom, about his school, about his favorite cartoons, each word a new piece in the puzzle of his life that Jack hadn't even known was incomplete. Glancing in the rearview mirror, he saw the boy hugging his Spider-Man backpack, his eyes so much like his own, heavy with worry for his mother. Jack Thompson, the man who had built an empire by predicting every market move, now found himself in completely uncharted territory. But as he drove toward the hospital, one certainty formed in his heart. His life would never be the same after that unexpected phone call. And, surprisingly, it didn't scare him as much as it should have. The Memorial Hospital towered impressively against the Manhattan night sky, its windows lit like hundreds of watchful eyes. Jack held Noah's hand as they walked through the automatic doors of the ER, the characteristic antiseptic smell filling his nostrils. The boy squeezed his hand tighter, and Jack realized he wasn't the only one who was anxious. At reception, a middle-aged nurse directed them to the 5th floor. Oncology. The word hit Jack like a bomb. Cancer. Was that why Emily had disappeared? Was this the reason for such secrecy? "Are you a relative of Ms. Miller?" asked Dr. Sarah Chen, a young-looking oncologist with experienced eyes. Jack hesitated, looking at Noah, who was distracted playing with a small car in the waiting room under a nurse's supervision. "I'm the father of her child." The doctor nodded, her expression turning grave. "Emily has an advanced stage lymphoma. She refused treatment for a long time, focusing only on alternative therapies. By the time she finally sought conventional medical help," she paused meaningfully, "the cancer had already spread considerably." Jack felt the ground vanish beneath his feet. "What's the prognosis? Without immediate aggressive treatment, she has weeks, maybe a month." Dr. Chen was direct, though her tone was gentle. "With intensive chemotherapy, we can try to extend that, but I need to be honest. The chances aren't good." Before Jack could fully process the information, a sharp voice echoed down the corridor. "What are you doing here?" Linda Roberts, Emily's mother, advanced toward him like a storm. At 60, she still had the proud bearing Jack remembered from their brief encounters in Paris. Her face was contorted in a mask of fury and disdain. "How dare you show up after all this time?" she hissed, keeping her voice low because of Noah but dripping venom in every word. "You ruined her life." "Mrs. Roberts," Jack maintained his composure, although his blood was boiling. "I only found out about Noah today. Emily never told me she was pregnant. And why would she? So you could abandon her the same way you did when you found out she was just a waitress, a nobody in your precious family's eyes." The words hit Jack like slaps. It was true that his family, especially his father, had been cruel to Emily when they discovered their relationship. The class difference had been a scandal at the time, but he had never known she was pregnant when she disappeared. "I never abandoned her," he said, his voice coming out hoarsely. "She vanished. Changed her number. Her address. I looked for her. After your father humiliated her, after your mother offered her money to disappear." Linda gave a mirthless laugh. "Emily had too much pride to accept scraps from the Thompsons." The revelation hit him like a punch to the stomach. His parents had interfered without his knowledge. Anger began to bubble in his chest, but it was cut short by a small voice. "Grandma, can I see Mom now?" Linda instantly transformed, kneeling to hug her grandson. Jack used the moment to regain his composure, his mind racing to process all he had learned. "Come on, dear." Linda took Noah's hand. "But remember, Mom's very tired, so we need to be extra quiet." Jack followed them to the room, his heart pounding. Emily was unrecognizable in the hospital bed. Her face, once full of life, was now pale and gaunt. The golden hair he had loved so much was gone, likely due to treatment. But when her eyes opened at the sound of their entrance, they still had that special sparkle that had once won him over. "Noah!" Her voice was just a whisper, but filled with love. Then her gaze found Jack's, and tears began to slide down her cheeks. "Jack, I'm sorry. Mom, don't cry." Noah climbed onto the bed carefully, snuggling beside her. "Look, I found Dad, just like you told me to." Jack approached the bed, his heart torn between anger over her deceit and the pain of seeing Emily in this state. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Not here," Emily murmured, stroking Noah's hair. "Not now." In the days that followed, Jack was swept up in a whirlwind of actions. He hired the best oncology specialists in the country, started legal proceedings for paternity recognition, and began rearranging his life to accommodate Noah. The DNA test was just a formality. One look at the boy and you could see Thompson blood course through his veins. His family reacted as expected. His mother, Victoria Thompson, tried to deny it at first, but when confronted with the evidence of her interference years before, She broke down in tears of guilt. His father, Richard Thompson, remained unyielding in his disapproval, but Jack no longer cared what he thought. "You're throwing away your future over a mistake from the past," Richard thundered during one particularly tense dinner. "No, Dad," Jack replied calmly, standing up from the table. "I'm finally correcting the mistakes of the past. Noah isn't a mistake. He's my son. And unlike you, I'm not going to let prejudice and pride destroy my family." Amid the chaos, Noah became his anchor. The boy was surprisingly resilient, alternating between moments of deep sadness and flashes of childlike joy that lit up the hospital's somber corridors. Jack found himself increasingly amazed by each new discovery about his son: his love of dinosaurs, his early aptitude for numbers, his kind heart that cared about everyone around him. But at night, when Noah finally fell asleep in the hospital armchair, Jack allowed himself to feel the weight of it all: his parents' lies, the years he'd missed with his son, and the very real possibility that Emily, the woman he'd never truly stopped loving, might not live to see Noah grow up. The truth was painful, but Jack Thompson was determined to face it head-on. For Noah, for Emily, and for the man he wanted to become. Emily Miller had always known what it meant to fight for every penny. She grew up in a modest apartment in the Bronx, where her mother Linda worked 2 jobs to support the family after Emily's father passed away prematurely. The apartment's peeling walls were decorated with magazine clippings, pictures of places Emily dreamed of seeing and universities she aspired to attend. From a young age, Emily showed a brilliance that defied her circumstances. Her exemplary grades and dedication to her studies earned her a partial scholarship at NYU, where she worked part-time as a waitress to cover the rest of her expenses. It was on one of these work nights at the elegant cafe near campus that her path first crossed with Jack Thompson's. "I'm sorry." Emily had tripped, was spilling coffee on the expensive shirt of the young economics student. She braced for an outburst of anger, but instead she got a kind smile and blue eyes that seemed to see right into her soul. "Only if you promise to let me pay for another cup of coffee, and this time sit with me to drink it," Jack replied, surprising her with his kindness. That moment marked the start of something magical. Jack wasn't like the other wealthy students who frequented the cafe. He had a genuine curiosity about life, a natural empathy that transcended social barriers. In the weeks that followed, they developed a friendship that blossomed into a passionate romance. Linda Roberts watched her daughter's relationship with apprehension. "People like them don't mix with people like us, honey," she warned, her words laden with years of disappointment. "They can pretend to be egalitarian in college, but when reality knocks at the door..." But Emily was determined to prove that love could overcome social barriers. Jack took her to places she only knew from her magazine clippings. In return, she introduced him to a world he had never known: the authentic flavor of homemade food in small Bronx restaurants, the cultural wealth of streets he used to avoid. "You make me see the world with new eyes," Jack confessed one night as they danced in the tiny kitchen of her apartment, an old song playing on the radio. Their bubble of happiness began to burst when the Thompson family came onto the scene. Victoria Thompson, with her refined accent and genuine pearls, paid a casual visit to the cafe where Emily worked. "How much?" she asked bluntly, leaving a checkbook on the table. "What's your price to disappear from my son's life?" Emily felt her world collapse, but kept her composure. "I'm not for sale, Mrs. Thompson, and neither is your son." The pressure increased. Richard Thompson used his connections to make it harder for Emily to renew her scholarship. Rumors began to circulate around campus about her interest in the Thompson fortune. Jack tried to protect her, but the weight of family expectations began to taint even their most intimate moments. The last straw came during a dinner at the Thompsons' mansion. Emily had tried her best to fit in: new dress bought with months of savings, etiquette studied in YouTube videos. But none of it mattered when Richard Thompson raised his crystal glass. "To youth," he toasted with a cold smile, "and to your more fleeting experiences." That night, alone in her apartment, Emily discovered she was pregnant. The positive test shook in her hands as silent tears streamed down her cheeks. She loved Jack, with all her soul, but her mother's words echoed in her mind. They might eventually accept you, but they'll never accept a child. He'll always be the bastard grandchild, the mistake that stained the family name. The decision to leave for Paris was made with a broken heart. Linda sold the few pieces of jewelry she had inherited from her grandmother to help with the ticket. Sometimes love means protecting people from themselves, she said, hugging her daughter at the airport. In Paris, Emily found work in a small cafe in the Marais district. Her French improved, her belly grew, and every kick of the baby was a bittersweet reminder of what she had left behind. When Jack found her months later, it was as though destiny was giving them a second chance. That summer in Paris felt like a dream. Walks along the Seine, kisses under the Eiffel Tower, whispered promises in hotel rooms. Jack never knew she was carrying his child during those magical moments. Emily planned to tell him. She'd rehearsed the words 1,000 times, but then Victoria Thompson showed up at the cafe where she worked. "He's about to take over the presidency of the company," Victoria announced, her flawless French laden with veiled threats. "A scandal now would destroy everything he's built. Is that what you want?" Emily fled again, this time to London. Noah was born on a rainy October morning, his blue eyes a perfect replica of Jack's. Every milestone in her son's development was a new stab of guilt. The first smile, the first word, the first steps. In each moment, she imagined the joy she was denying Jack. "Why doesn't Dad live with us?" Noah asked at 3 years old, after seeing his friends at daycare with their fathers. "Sometimes the people we love the most are the ones we have to protect, and even if it hurts," Emily answered, swallowing her tears. Her return to New York was forced by her illness. She initially ignored the symptoms: fatigue, small bruises, pains she attributed to the stress of being a single mother. When she finally sought medical help, the diagnosis was merciless. Now lying in her hospital bed, Emily watched Jack and Noah interact, noticing in their gestures and expressions the similarities she had tried to hide for so long. The silence she had kept for years was rooted in deep fear and love. Fear of prejudice, judgment, rejection. Love strong enough to sacrifice her own happiness to protect her child. "You were right," she whispered to her mother one evening, while Noah slept in Jack's arms. "They are different from us, but you were also wrong. Sometimes those differences don't matter as much as we think." The roots of silence were deep, nourished by years of social inequality and ingrained prejudice. But now, watching her son build a relationship with the father he had never known, Emily began to realize that maybe some roots could be uprooted, making room for something new to grow. The blaring 6 a.m. alarm was nothing new for Jack Thompson. What was new was the small body curled up in his king-size bed, surrounded by dinosaur plushies that were now part of his minimalist decor. Noah had developed the habit of sneaking into his room at night, especially after hospital visits. "Noah, time to get up, buddy," Jack tried gently, still unsure of the best way to wake a 5-year-old. The response was a groan, and Noah burrowed deeper under the covers. The transformation of his once pristine penthouse was remarkable. Toys scattered on the floor replaced modern sculptures, colorful drawings covered the stainless steel fridge, and a growing collection of sugary cereals occupied shelves once reserved for imported organic products. "Mr. Thompson." Sarah Peterson, the new nanny, arrived punctually at 7 a.m. A 28-year-old with experience in early childhood education and impeccable references, she'd been selected after a rigorous process led by Jack's executive assistant. "Please, call me Jack," he replied, struggling to tie a necktie while holding a Jurassic Park lunchbox. "Noah is still refusing to take a bath, and I have a board meeting in—" He checked his watch. 40 minutes. Sarah took charge with a calm efficiency that made Jack feel both grateful and inadequate. Within minutes, she had Noah laughing and cooperating with the morning routine, something Jack was still learning to manage. The changes at the office were just as evident. His workspace now featured a small corner with a drawing table and children's books. His assistant, Anne Margaret, who for 5 years had organized his life with military precision, was learning to adapt the CEO's schedule at Thompson Enterprises to include parent-teacher meetings and pediatric appointments. "Your 3 p.m. Meeting has been switched to a video conference, Margaret informed him, handing over a folder of reports. That way you can attend Noah's appointment with Dr. Williams. News of Jack's sudden fatherhood spread quickly through the financial market. Some board members expressed concern about his new focus on personal matters. Charles Bennett, his mentor and board chairman, called him in for a private talk. "Jack, you've built something extraordinary here," Charles began, gesturing to the panoramic view of Manhattan through the meeting room windows. "But in the past few days, you cancelled 3 important investor dinners." "My son needed me," Jack replied simply, surprised at how easily the words came now. "And he will keep needing me." "Thompson Enterprises needs you too," Charles argued, his grey eyebrows knit in concern. "And it will have me, but not at the expense of my son." Jack stood up, straightening his jacket. "By the way, I've got to go. Noah has a doctor's appointment in half an hour." Dr. Williams was a middle-aged woman with decades of pediatrics experience. Her initial assessment of Noah was thorough, especially considering the emotional impact of recent changes in his life. "He's adapting surprisingly well," she explained while Noah played with a stethoscope in the corner of the room. "But we need to watch for any signs of anxiety or regression. His mother's situation, combined with all these transitions." Jack absorbed every word, making mental notes. His capacity for processing complex information, once devoted exclusively to market analyses and corporate strategies, now expanded to include medical terms, emotional needs, and child development milestones. The hearing for temporary custody was set for the following week. His lawyer assured him it would be a formality, especially with the positive DNA test and Emily's current condition. Still, Jack found himself obsessively reviewing each document, every medical report, every psychological evaluation. Evenings had become his favorite time of day. After dinner, which he was learning to cook with variable results, came bath time, followed by story time. Noah had a particular fondness for dinosaur stories, and Jack discovered he could use his knowledge of financial markets to create surprisingly effective analogies about different species and their habitats. "The T-Rex was like the CEO of the Jurassic World," he explained one night, making Noah laugh with his roaring impressions. "But you know who really controlled the market? The small and agile velociraptors." Sarah proved to be more than a nanny. She was an invaluable ally in Jack's new life. Besides caring for Noah, she helped establish routines, suggested age-appropriate activities, and offered guidance on how to handle the boy's increasingly frequent questions about Emily. "Why does Mom have to stay in the hospital?" Noah asked one night, his small voice laden with worry. Jack felt his heart tighten. "The doctors are trying to make her better," he replied, choosing his words carefully. "And in the meantime, we'll take care of each other, okay?" Daily visits to the hospital became part of their routine. Though weakened by treatment, Emily tried her best to stay upbeat when interacting with Noah. Jack watched their conversations, marveling at the bond between mother and son, and tormented by the time he'd lost. Late at night, in his home office, Jack often found himself looking at old photos of Emily that he'd managed to recover. The vibrant young woman in the images contrasted painfully with her current condition. Guilt and regret consumed him at times like this, always interrupted by the sound of little footsteps down the hallway. "Dad?" Noah would appear at the door, clutching his favorite dinosaur plush. "I can't sleep." And once again, Jack Thompson, the feared Wall Street shark, found himself putting aside spreadsheets and reports to settle into his son's bed, telling stories about a world where dinosaurs roamed the earth and all problems could be solved with a hug and a good night's sleep. His transformation didn't go unnoticed by his team. Amanda Chen, his CFO, remarked during a meeting, "You're different, Jack. More human." He smiled, adjusting a tie stained with grape juice. "I have a great teacher," he replied, checking his phone, which buzzed with another picture Sarah had sent of Noah, this time showing an abstract art project made with modeling clay. Adaptation was far from perfect. There were frustrating days, sleepless nights, and moments of sheer panic when he questioned whether he was doing everything wrong. But then Noah would smile, or ask a surprisingly insightful question, or simply hug him for no reason at all, and Jack knew he was exactly where he needed to be. A carved wooden box lay on Jack's desk. its contents spread out like puzzle pieces he was trying to fit together. Linda Roberts had finally relented and given him the chest Emily had kept. It contained a meticulous collection of memories from the past 6 years. She kept everything, Linda explained, her voice trembling. Every moment, every decision. She wanted Noah to understand someday. Jack picked up the first photograph, Emily pregnant in Paris, her face lit by the setting sun over the Seine. The date on the back hit him like a blow. It was taken during the time they'd reunited that magical summer. She had already been expecting Noah, and he never knew. A faded blue diary caught his attention. The first entries were from when Emily discovered she was pregnant. Positive. The word that changed everything. I'm sitting on the bathroom floor, test in hand, thinking about Jack. How his eyes light up when he talks about the future. How his family looks at me like I'm an intruder. How can I condemn our child to grow up seen that way? The pages that followed documented her flight to Paris, her struggle to find work, the lonely nights in a tiny apartment in the 18th arrondissement. There were receipts for French lessons, resumes in awkward French, and finally the letter confirming her job at Café Madeleine. Madame Dubois lets me sit between shifts when my feet swell too much. She lost a daughter years ago and says I'm her little American miracle. Today the baby kicked while I was serving coffee. I thought of Jack, about how he'd love to feel it. Jack found a series of unsent letters, all addressed to him. Some were filled with furious anger, others with heartbreaking longing. The most striking was dated the day Noah was born. Our son was born today, Jack. He has your eyes, your chin, even that little mark near your eyebrow. The nurse asked about the father, and I lied, saying you died. In some ways, I feel like part of me really has died. The part that believed love was enough to overcome any obstacle. There were daycare reports from London, where Emily moved when Noah was 6 months old. A work contract with a small publisher, where she started as a junior editor. Receipts from night editing courses, taken while a neighbor looked after Noah. Mrs. Patel in the apartment next door is a blessing. She cares for Noah like he's her grandson, teaches him words in Hindi, insists he tries every dish she cooks. Sometimes, when I see her with him, I feel a stab of guilt for keeping him from his real grandparents. Jack found a photo of Noah at 2Ds dressed as a dinosaur, standing next to an older woman in a colorful sari. On the back, in Emily's delicate handwriting, Noah and Mrs. Patel, Daycare Carnival 2023. A brown envelope held medical documents, the first exams that detected Emily's illness. Her notes in the margins revealed her initial despair and determination to fight. Alternative therapies seem promising. I can't afford to be sick now. Noah needs me. I need to make sure he's okay before... Linda quietly entered Jack's office, finding him absorbed in a pile of children's drawings. She kept every scribble of his, Linda commented, sitting down heavily. She said that one day you'd want to see every moment you missed. Why didn't she reach out when she got sick? Jack asked, his voice hoarse. Linda sighed, picking up a photo of Emily holding newborn Noah. Pride, maybe, or fear. You built an empire, Jack. She read about you in magazines, saw your success grow. How could she show up after all that time, sick, needing help? A small black notebook revealed Emily's survival strategies, meticulously planned budgets, expense lists, savings plans. Every penny was counted, every purchase justified. Still, there was always a small amount set aside for the Noah University Fund. I want him to have choices, one note read, so he never feels as limited as I did. Among the pages, Jack found a newspaper clipping about himself, a piece covering his meteoric rise in business. Emily had circled his photo and written next to it, "He looks happy. Maybe I made the right choice." Another envelope contained pictures from all of Noah's birthday parties. In each, Emily looked thinner, paler, but her smile remained radiant. The last picture, from his 5th birthday, showed Noah blowing out the candles on a T-Rex-shaped cake. That's when the symptoms got worse, Linda explained, noticing Jack's expression. She could barely stand during the party, but insisted on making everything perfect. It was like she knew it would be the last one. Jack found a small flash drive at the bottom of the box. When he plugged it into his laptop, he discovered dozens of videos. Noah learning to walk, speaking his first words, everyday moments that now felt infinitely precious. In one particularly moving video, Noah, around 3 years old, asked about his dad. Emily's voice trembled slightly as she answered, "Your dad is a very special man, sweetie. He has a huge heart, even if he doesn't always know it. And I'm sure that if he knew about you, he'd love you more than anything in the world." Jack paused the video, tears blurring his vision. A noise at the door made him look up. Noah stood there, still in his pajamas, dragging his dinosaur plush on the floor. "Dad? Are you sad?" Jack opened his arms, and Noah ran to him, curling into his lap as though he'd always belonged there. Linda watched, her eyes also brimming with tears. "She always knew you two would find each other," she said gently. "She just never imagined it would be like this." Jack hugged Noah tighter, feeling the weight of all those lost years and, at the same time, immense gratitude for each moment documented in that box. Emily had preserved their story, keeping the possibility of this meeting alive even when it seemed impossible. "Want to see some videos of you when you were a baby?" Jack asked Noah, his voice shaky but smiling. "Was I cute?" Noah asked, already settling in to watch. "Cutest ever," Jack replied, hitting play on the next video. "And your mom was amazing." As they watched the memories Emily had preserved, Jack realized the box didn't just contain a record of lost years, it was a testament to love, sacrifice, and hope. Each item told the story of a woman who had done the impossible to protect her son, ensuring that even in the toughest circumstances, Noah always knew he was deeply loved. "Are you sure you don't want me to go with you?" Sarah asked, helping Jack pack the last pieces of clothing into the small Spider-Man suitcase. "A whole weekend alone with him?" "I need to do this," Jack replied, checking for the third time the list he'd prepared. Extra clothes, motion sickness meds, healthy snacks and some not-so-healthy ones, first aid kit, favorite toys. It felt like he was preparing for an Everest expedition, not just 2 days in the Hamptons. The idea for the trip came after one of Noah's sessions with his child therapist. "He needs exclusive time with you, without distractions," she had advised. "Have space for you two to build your own memories." Now standing at the front door with their bags ready, Jack wondered if he was prepared. Noah, on the other hand, was buzzing with excitement, jumping from foot to foot with his beloved T-Rex plush under his arm. "Can we see whales, Dad? My teacher said sometimes they swim near the shore." "We'll try, champ." Jack smiled, realizing fear was beginning to give way to anticipation. The car ride itself turned out to be an adventure. Noah had a natural gift for asking questions Jack had never considered before. Why is the sky blue? How do birds know where they're going? If dinosaurs still existed, could they ride in a car? Jack, used to answering complex questions about the financial market, found himself Googling explanations during rest stops to figure out why clouds don't fall out of the sky. Noah's insatiable curiosity was contagious, making Jack see the world through new eyes. The beach house, usually reserved for business meetings and sophisticated parties, burst with life thanks to Noah's presence. Within hours, the pristine deck was littered with buckets and shovels, carefully selected shells, and half-built sandcastles. "Look, Dad, it's a Sandosaurus Rex," Noah declared proudly, pointing at a misshapen mound of sand which, with a lot of imagination, could be seen as a dinosaur. Jack, still in his designer clothes, didn't hesitate to kneel in the sand to help. His hands, more used to signing million-dollar contracts, now molded towers and moats with complete dedication. Lunch was a diplomatic negotiation worthy of his best boardroom deals. "How about a deal?" Jack proposed, switching into negotiation mode. 3 pieces of broccoli in exchange for ice cream for dessert? Noah considered the offer with comical seriousness. 5 scoops of ice cream, 2 scoops and extra whipped cream. Deal. Noah extended his tiny hand to seal it, imitating the gestures he'd seen his dad make on work video calls. At night, lying in beach chairs, they looked up at the stars. Jack discovered that his knowledge of the financial market could be surprisingly handy in explaining constellations. "See those 3 stars in a row? That's Orion's belt. Think of him as the CEO of the sky, organizing all the other stars. Like you organize your company?" "Something like that." Jack smiled. but I think I prefer organizing constellations with you. The second day brought rain, forcing them to improvise indoor activities. Jack found that his home theater, once used only for PowerPoint presentations, was perfect for blanket forts and watching dinosaur movies. "Dad," Noah called during a particularly thrilling scene in Jurassic Park, "do you think Mom will like our fort when she gets better?" The question caught Jack off guard, his heart clenching. "I'm sure she will, champ. And we can build many more for her." The rain also led to unexpected discoveries. Jack found Noah quietly working in his office, meticulously drawing. "What are you doing?" "A chart," Noah answered casually. "Just like yours, but mine's about dinosaurs." Jack moved closer to see a colorful drawing where different dinosaurs were categorized by size, with numbers carefully written beside them. His son had inherited more than just his looks. They took dozens of photos over the weekend. Jack, who once only appeared in formal pictures for business magazines, now had a phone full of clumsy selfies, ice cream-smudged grins, and heroic poses next to sandcastles. On Sunday afternoon, as they packed up to leave, Noah found a particularly pretty shell on the beach. "Can we take it to Mom?" he asked, his blue eyes, so much like Jack's, shining with hope. "Of course," Jack said, storing it carefully. "How about we take one last picture to show her?" The photo captured a perfect moment. Father and son on the beach, hair tousled by the wind, identical smiles, and the shell between them like a shared treasure. It wasn't a technically perfect photo, slightly blurry, the angle off, but for Jack, it was the most important picture he'd ever taken. Back in the car, Noah fell asleep almost immediately, clutching his T-Rex. Jack drove in silence, occasionally glancing in the rearview mirror at his son. How was it possible that in such a short time, this small person had become the center of his universe? He remembered his initial worries about the weekend, the fear of not knowing how to act, failing to connect, making mistakes. Now, those concerns felt distant. Sure, he'd made mistakes, serving cereal with hot milk for breakfast, forgetting sunscreen on the first morning, nearly having a heart attack when Noah vanished for 2 minutes on the beach. He was just behind a chair. But each mistake brought a lesson. Each awkward moment became a precious memory. Each laugh, each question, each small discovery wove a bond he knew would never be broken. Before heading back into the city, Jack made one last stop at the hospital. Emily, though exhausted from treatment, smiled as she saw the photos and held the shell like it was a rare jewel. "He has your smile," she commented softly, looking at the images. "And your heart, too." Jack held her frail hand, thinking about how life could change completely in a matter of days. 2 weeks ago, he was a lonely workaholic. Now, he was a father, a learner, a builder of sandcastles, and a budding dinosaur expert. And for the first time in his adult life, he felt he was finally doing something that truly mattered. Size crisis and decisions. The memorial hospital felt different that morning. The corridors, usually bustling, were strangely quiet when Jack arrived for the meeting with the medical team. Linda was already there, her hands nervously clutching a worn handkerchief. "Where's Noah?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "With Sarah. I thought it best he not be here for this conversation." Dr. Chen entered the conference room, accompanied by 2 other doctors, Dr. Marcus Stevens, a surgical oncologist, and Dr. David Park, a bone marrow transplant specialist. Their grave faces foreshadowed the news to come. "The last round of chemotherapy didn't have the effect we'd hoped, Doctor." Chen began, spreading out test results on the table. "The lymphoma is spreading faster than we can contain it." Dr. Stevens pointed to a series of images. "These dark areas show new disease sites. The pressure on vital organs is increasing." Jack studied the images, his mind trained for data analysis, trying to process information his heart refused to accept. "What are our options?" "There's an experimental procedure," Dr. Park explained, opening a file on his tablet. "A new approach combining immunotherapy with a bone marrow transplant. It's highly risky, especially given Emily's weakened state. But it's our only real chance," Linda finished, her voice breaking. The discussion that followed was intense. Statistics, risks, medical protocols. Every detail was scrutinized. Jack asked dozens of questions, writing down every answer, as though the solution could be found if he simply understood all the angles. "How long do we have to decide?" he finally asked. "The surgery needs to happen in the next 3 days, if we choose that route, Doctor." Stevens replied, "After that, the risk becomes prohibitive." Jack stood, walking to the window. Outside, life went on as normal. People coming and going, ambulances arriving, the autumn sun shining indifferently on the storm unfolding in that room. "We need to talk to her," Linda said softly. "It's her life." Emily's room was silent except for the steady beep of the monitors. She looked even smaller in the hospital bed, but her eyes still held the determined spark Jack remembered so well. "No need for those funeral faces," she joked weakly when they entered. "I saw Dr. Stevens in the hallway. I know it's time for tough decisions." Jack held her hand while the doctors explained everything again, including the options. Emily listened in silence, occasionally squeezing Jack's hand when something particularly difficult was mentioned. "What are the real odds?" she finally asked. "Without surgery, just a few weeks," Dr. Chen answered honestly. "With it, a 30% chance of success. And the risks of the surgery itself. They're significant. There's about a 20% chance you might not survive the procedure." The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken words and unexpressed fears. Emily finally broke it. "I need to see Noah before I decide." Half an hour later, Noah entered the room carrying a new drawing, this time a T-Rex in a doctor's coat. Emily smiled, making space on the bed for him to sit beside her. "That's a handsome doctor you drew," she commented, running her fingers through his hair. "That's Dr. Rex," Noah explained seriously. "He's the best dinosaur doctor in the world. He'll make you better." Emily glanced at Jack, tears silently rolling down her cheeks. "Noah, honey, Mom needs a very important surgery." "To get better?" "To try to get better, yes." She took a deep breath. "But it's a hard surgery, and I'm a little scared." Noah considered this, then placed his T-Rex plush next to her on the bed. "Rex can stay with you. He's really brave and scares away all the fear." Jack had to turn away to hide his own tears. Linda sobbed quietly in the corner of the room. Later, after Noah had left with Sarah, Emily made her decision. "I'll do the surgery," she announced. "Not because of the 30% chance, but because of the 100% certainty that I have to try. For him." The next 2 days were a flurry of preparations. Jack leveraged his contacts to bring in specialized equipment and ensure the best professionals were on hand. Linda practically moved into the hospital, overseeing every detail of her daughter's care. The night before the surgery, after Noah had gone to sleep, Jack returned to the hospital. He found Emily awake, staring out the window. "Can't sleep?" he asked, sitting beside her. "I was thinking about all the things I still want to do," she replied. "All the moments I want to have with Noah, his first day of school, his graduation, his—" "Hey," Jack interrupted gently, holding her hand. "You'll have all that. You're the strongest person I know." Emily gave a sad smile. If something goes wrong tomorrow—" "Emily, no, I have to say this." She squeezed his hand. "If anything happens, I want you to know that I never stopped loving you. Every decision I made, no matter how wrong it might look now, was out of love. For both of you." Jack leaned in and kissed her forehead softly. "I know. And we love you too. So fight tomorrow, okay? Fight with everything you have." Early the next morning, the medical team began prepping. Dr. Stevens reviewed the procedure with his staff, while Dr. Park supervised the final pre-op tests. Noah, still in his pajamas, was brought in for one last hug before the surgery. "Remember that Rex is with you, Mom," he whispered in her ear. Watching Emily's gurney being wheeled into the operating room, Jack held Noah in his arms, both waving until she disappeared through the double doors. The little dinosaur plush was perched proudly on her chest, like a talisman of hope. Now came the hardest part, the waiting. And for the first time in his life, Jack Thompson, the man who always controlled everything, could do only one thing: pray. Richard Thompson's office looked exactly as Jack remembered: imposing, cold, intimidating. Sitting behind the massive mahogany desk, His father wore the same stern expression that Jack had known since childhood. Victoria Thompson was by his side, her pearls gleaming under the late afternoon light. "We found this in the old safe." Richard slid a yellowed envelope across the desk. "Your mother thought you should see it." Jack opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside were documents dating back 6 years, bank transfers, confidentiality contracts, and, more disturbingly, detailed reports about Emily during her pregnancy in Paris. "You spied on her?" he asked, his voice trembling with restrained anger. "We protected the family's interests," Richard corrected, his tone icy. "She was pregnant when she went to Paris. Our investigators confirmed it. And you didn't think I had a right to know," Victoria interjected, her voice trembling. "We wanted to protect you, dear. Thompson Enterprises was at a critical point. A scandal like that." "A scandal?" Jack stood abruptly. "We're talking about my son." 5 years. You robbed me of 5 years with my child." "She took the money," Richard stated, as if that settled everything. "No, Dad. She refused." Jack shook the documents. "It's right here in your own reports. She refused every cent you offered." The silence that followed was deafening. Jack could hear his own heart pounding as the puzzle pieces fit together. His parents' secret trips to Paris, their veiled questions about Emily over the years, his mother's guilty looks the first time Noah was mentioned. "Did you know she was sick?" he finally asked. His parents' silence was enough of an answer. "My God." Jack ran a hand through his hair. "For how long?" "Our contacts in London informed us about a year ago," Victoria admitted softly, "when she started looking for treatment." Jack felt each word like a physical blow. "A year. She was dying. And you knew." Without another word, he left the office, ignoring his mother's calls after him. In the elevator, his hands trembled so badly he could barely dial his lawyer's number. "Marcus, I need you to review some documents, immediately." Hours later, in his own office, Jack was surrounded by paperwork and his legal team. The extent of his parents' interference was greater than he had imagined. There was evidence they had actively sabotaged Emily's attempts to contact him over the years. "They had no legal right to do this," Marcus explained, adjusting his glasses. "Technically, we could file a lawsuit." "No," Jack interrupted. "I don't want a public scandal. Noah's already going through enough." His phone vibrated. A message from Sarah with a photo of Noah sleeping, holding tight to his ever-present T-Rex. The image grounded him, reminding him what really mattered now. "What are our options regarding custody?" Marcus began explaining the legal procedures, but was cut off by an urgent call from the hospital. Jack's heart froze as he saw Dr. Chen's number. "Mr. Thompson, there's been a complication with Emily." The rest of the day was a blur of hospital corridors, medical jargon, and impossible decisions. Emily had developed a severe infection after surgery, complicating her already delicate condition. "We need authorization for an experimental procedure," Dr. Stevens explained. "As Noah's father and, well, given Emily's current situation, you're the closest person she has besides her mother," Dr. Chen added gently. Jack looked through the glass into the ICU, where Emily lay fighting for her life, hooked up to countless machines. Linda was at her side, whispering words of encouragement Emily might not even hear. "What did she decide about custody?" he asked Dr. Chen. "Before the surgery." The doctor handed him a sealed envelope. "She left this for you." Inside was a handwritten letter and legal documents already signed. Emily had prepared everything, ensuring Noah would stay with Jack if anything happened to her. But there was more. A detailed confession about all the attempts she had made to contact him over the years, and how each one had been systematically blocked. "When I discovered your parents were intercepting my attempts to reach out," she wrote, "I decided it was better to protect Noah from that world of manipulation and power plays. Maybe it was selfish of me, but my fear of watching my child be treated like an inconvenience, a mistake to be hidden, it was bigger than anything else. Forgive me for not fighting harder." Jack let the tears flow freely as he read the rest of the letter. Pages of explanations, regrets, and above all, hope. Hope that he would be the father Noah deserved, that he would protect his son from the same forces that had driven them apart. "Mr. Thompson," Dr. Stevens brought him back to the present. "We need your decision on the procedure." Jack looked again at Emily through the glass, then at the photo of Noah on his phone. So many decisions in the past had been made without his knowledge or consent. Now, he finally had the power to do the right thing. "Do whatever it takes to save her," he said firmly. "I'm not letting my son lose his mother. Not again." As he signed the necessary authorizations, Jack knew his life would never be the same. His priorities, his relationships, his view of family, everything was being rewritten in the light of these revelations. And somewhere in the midst of this storm of truths and consequences, he was finally becoming the man he had always been meant to be. The first sign that Emily was waking up came 3 days after the surgery. A slight movement of her fingers, a change in the heart monitor's rhythm, and her eyes began to open slowly. Jack, who had dozed off in the chair next to her bed, was alerted by the machine's shift. "Emily?" he called softly, leaning forward. Her eyes opened fully, disoriented and confused. She looked around the room, her gaze passing over Jack without recognition, until it landed on Linda, who had just walked in. "Mom?" Her voice was hoarse from the intubation. Where am I?" "At the hospital, dear," Linda replied, rushing over to her. "You had surgery." Emily frowned, trying to organize her thoughts. "What year is it?" The question made Jack and Linda exchange worried looks. Dr. Chen had mentioned the possibility of cognitive complications after surgery, but no one was truly prepared for this. 2025, honey," Linda answered gently. Panic began to rise in Emily's eyes. "No, that can't be. I was in Paris. Jack felt his heart constrict. Paris, 6 years ago, when she was pregnant with Noah. Dr. Chen was called immediately. After an initial evaluation, the doctor confirmed their fears. Emily was suffering from retrograde amnesia, apparently losing the last 6 years of her memory. It could be temporary, the doctor explained. The trauma of the surgery, combined with physical and emotional stress. "What about Noah?" Jack asked quietly. "How do we explain him?" That question was answered sooner than expected. Noah, brought in by Sarah for his daily visit, ran into the room before anyone could intercept him. "Mom, you're awake!" Emily looked at the boy with a mix of confusion and something deeper, an instinctive recognition that went beyond conscious memory. Her hands trembled as she touched Noah's face, tears filling her eyes. I have a son," she whispered, looking at Linda for confirmation. Realizing something was wrong, Noah stepped back a little. "Mom? You don't remember me?" The pain in the boy's voice was enough to break everyone's heart. Jack quickly stepped forward, placing his hands on his son's shoulders. "Mom's a bit confused because of the medicine, buddy," he explained as best he could. "We need to help her remember, okay?" In the days that followed, a careful routine was established. Dr. Patel, a neuropsychologist specializing in amnesia, developed a recovery program that included cognitive therapy and gradual exposure to memories. "The brain is incredibly resilient," she explained during a session. "The memories aren't necessarily gone, just temporarily inaccessible." Emily's visits were now controlled, always supervised by medical staff. Noah, showing surprising maturity for his age, brought in drawings and photos, telling stories of the times they'd spent together. "Remember when we made dinosaur cookies? Mum, you let me put blue frosting on all of them." Each story acted like a tiny bridge being rebuilt. Sometimes Emily could latch onto a memory, a smell, a feeling, a fleeting moment. Other times, frustration overwhelmed her. "It's like I lost an entire life," she confessed during a therapy session. "I have a wonderful son I don't remember raising. And Jack..." She hesitated. "In my last clear memories, we were in Paris. And now..." Jack took an active role in her recovery, bringing documents, photos, and objects that might trigger memories. The diary they found in the memory box became a valuable tool. "You wrote about every important moment," he explained, handing her the faded blue notebook. "Every first step, every new word, every birthday." Emily spent hours reading her own words, trying to reconnect with the person who had written them. Sometimes, A specific phrase triggered a wave of emotions she couldn't fully understand. "It says here Noah was afraid of thunder," she noted one day, "that I used to sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow to calm him." That night, during a storm, Noah hid in her hospital room. Without thinking, Emily started singing the song, and for a magical moment, muscle memory took over. She remembered the melody, the rhythm, the exact way she used to cradle her son. The doctors called these memory islands, small fragments of the past that emerged through strong emotional triggers. Jack watched each breakthrough with a mixture of hope and apprehension, knowing that some memories, when they returned, might also bring back past pain. Sarah, the nanny, became an important ally, helping Noah understand and cope with the situation. "It's like Mum's brain is playing hide-and-seek," she explained in a way he could grasp, "and we're helping her find all the hidden memories." The metaphor stuck, and Noah began turning his mom's recovery process into a sort of treasure hunt, bringing objects and photos he thought might wake up her memories. "Look, Mom, this is Rex," he introduced his dinosaur plush. "You got him for me on my 4th birthday. Remember?" Emily held the toy, and for a moment something sparkled in her eyes. Green. The party had green and brown decorations, dinosaur-themed. "Yes!" Noah jumped excitedly, and there was a huge T-Rex cake. Small victories like this were celebrated, but the road was long and often frustrating. Emily swung between moments of progress and painful setbacks. Jack's constant presence was both comforting and challenging, a living reminder of the memories she'd lost. "In my last clear memories, we were deeply in love in Paris," she admitted in a private session. "Now he's the father of my child, a man who's obviously changed a lot while I wasn't there, Doctor." Patel encouraged her to focus on the present, on building new memories even as the old ones slowly returned. "Love takes many forms," she said. "Sometimes rebuilding is just as important as remembering." And so, day by day, small bridges were rebuilt. Through shared stories, old photographs, half-remembered songs, and hugs the body recognized even when the mind hesitated. It was a slow and sometimes painful process, but each bit of progress was a victory that brought Emily closer to the life she'd forgotten. Dr. Rachel Martinez, a specialist in cognitive neurology, had an office filled with brain images of Emily. The colorful marks on her MRIs told a complex story that the doctor was trying to decipher. "The retrograde amnesia Emily is experiencing is focal," Dr. Martinez explained, pointing to specific areas on the scans. The trauma of the surgery, combined with prolonged stress from her illness, primarily affected the autobiographical memories of the last 6 years. Jack and Linda listened closely, while Emily kept her eyes fixed on the images of her own brain, as if hoping to find her lost memories hidden among the colored spots. "Interestingly, her procedural memories are intact," the doctor continued. "Emily still knows how to do things she learned during that period, speak French, play the piano. It's her personal, emotional memories that are inaccessible." "It's like I watched a movie of my own life," Emily said softly, "but I can't remember the plot. I only have sensations." "Doctor," Martinez nodded sympathetically. "That's a very accurate description. That's why we'll be using a multifaceted approach to recovery." The treatment plan was intensive: cognitive behavioral therapy 3 times a week, sessions of transcranial magnetic stimulation, targeted memory exercises, and occupational therapy. Each specialist brought a different piece to the recovery puzzle. "We need to rebuild not just the memories, but also the emotional context around them," explained Dr. William Chen, the therapist assigned to her case. During sessions, he used guided regression techniques, trying to build bridges between Emily's last clear memories and her present. "Close your eyes," he guided her. "You're in Paris. It's 2019. What do you see? What do you feel?" I'm at the cafe," Emily responded, her voice trembling. "I can smell freshly roasted coffee, croissants right out of the oven. I'm nauseous. The pregnancy, but I can't show it because no one knows yet." These sessions were emotionally exhausting. Sometimes Emily emerged with small fragments of memory recovered. Other times, frustration consumed her. Noah often provided the most meaningful breakthroughs with his innocent presence. One afternoon, he brought in his favorite photo album. "Look, Mom, this is when we went to the zoo." He pointed excitedly at a picture of them feeding giraffes. "I was scared, sir, but I wasn't." Emily touched the photo gently. For a moment, a flicker of memory, the peculiar smell of the zoo, Noah's laughter, the rough texture of a giraffe's tongue on her hand. You were wearing a Spider-Man t-shirt," she whispered, surprised. "And you spilled ice cream on it." Noah's eyes widened in excitement. "Yes. And you said it was no big deal because stains are memories." Small victories like these were celebrated, but just as often overshadowed by setbacks. During a particularly difficult occupational therapy session, Emily tried to relearn how to make dinosaur cookies, a special tradition she and Noah once shared. "The dough is wrong," she murmured, tears of frustration rolling down her cheeks. "I know it's wrong, but I can't remember how to fix it." Sarah, watching from the door with Noah, stepped in gently. "How about we try a new recipe? Sometimes creating new memories is just as important as recovering the old ones." The nanny's simple wisdom proved valuable. The medical team began integrating the creation of new memories as part of Emily's recovery. "The brain is incredibly adaptable," Dr. Martinez explained during a follow-up appointment. "Sometimes new neural connections can help awaken old ones." Jack became a constant presence in the therapy sessions, acting as a bridge between the past Emily remembered and the present she was trying to reclaim. His presence was comforting, yet also a reminder of the memories she had lost. "It's strange," Emily confided during a private session with Dr. Chen. "I have clear memories of falling in love with him in Paris, but then there's this void. And now he's the father of my child, a man who's obviously been through so much that I didn't witness." The therapist encouraged her to explore these complex feelings. Sometimes the heart remembers what the mind forgets. Their daily routine became a constant exercise in rediscovery. Every object, every photograph, every song could be a trigger for lost memories. Linda turned Emily's hospital room into an informal museum of her missing years, panels covered with photos, birthday cards, Noah's drawings, all in chronological order. "It's like putting together a puzzle without seeing the picture on the box," Emily remarked one day, staring at the memory wall. "I know all these pieces fit somehow, but I can't see the whole picture." The doctors monitored her progress carefully. Weekly scans revealed small changes in brain activity, previously dormant areas beginning to show signs of life. "It's as though her brain is creating detours," Dr. Martinez said, pointing to the new images, finding alternative paths to access the blocked memories. The sessions of transcranial magnetic stimulation, although uncomfortable, began to show promising results. Memories started returning, first in disjointed flashes, then in more coherent sequences. "I remember the smell of wet earth," Emily shared during a session. "Noah was 3, it was raining. He wanted to jump in every puddle on the way to school." Every recovered memory was meticulously documented, creating a timeline of the lost years that slowly began to piece itself back together. The medical team developed a color-coded system for her memories: green for fully recovered, yellow for partial, red for still inaccessible. The emotional toll on everyone involved was enormous. Noah shifted between childlike hope and deep sadness when his mother didn't remember something important. Jack balanced his own pain with the need to be strong for both of them. "It's like losing her twice," he confided to Linda on a particularly tough night. "First when she left for Paris, and now when she's here but doesn't remember our life with Noah." Yet in the fog of forgotten memories, moments of clarity began to appear. During a music therapy session, Emily found herself playing a lullaby on the piano, a song she used to sing to Noah. "I don't remember learning this," she said, her hands moving automatically across the keys. "But my fingers remember." It was in these moments that hope renewed itself. The road to recovery was long and uncertain, but each little victory, each fragment of memory recalled, was a step toward reconnecting Emily with her forgotten life. "Memories are like stars, Doctor." Chen would often say, "Even when we can't see them, they're still there, shining somewhere in our consciousness." The therapy room had been turned into a memory sanctuary. Photos covered the walls in chronological order, significant items were displayed on shelves, and a detailed timeline marked important events from the past 6 years. Emily spent most of her days here, trying to reconnect with the life she had lost. Today we'll try something different, announced Dr. Patel, adjusting the lighting in the room. Jack will tell us about the day you two met again in Paris. Emily settled into a comfortable chair as Jack pulled his seat closer. Their hands met instinctively, a gesture her body remembered, even if her mind didn't. It was a June afternoon, Jack began, his voice soft as he recalled the memory. Café Madeleine was on a sunny corner in the Marais. I was there on business, but something drew me into that specific café. As Jack spoke, Dr. Patel watched Emily's reactions closely. Small shifts in her expression, changes in her breathing, unconscious hand squeezes, all potential signs of emerging memories. You were different, Jack continued, thinner, your hair shorter, but your smile, that smile that lit up your eyes, it was exactly as I remembered. Emily closed her eyes, letting Jack's words paint pictures in her mind. There was music playing, she said hesitantly, something in French. La Vie en Rose, Jack confirmed, moved. It was playing when I walked in. A small but significant breakthrough. Dr. Patel made notes while they continued the exercise. Each memory retrieved was a precious victory. The next sessions focused on different periods. Noah became an active participant, bringing his own documents, drawings, toys, stories only he and his mother had shared. "Remember this, Mom?" he asked one day, showing her a crumpled drawing of a purple dinosaur. "You said it was the most beautiful dinosaur in the world, even though it had 3 heads and 5 legs. Emily smiled, touching the drawing carefully. For a moment, something flickered. A memory of the smell of crayons, Noah's laughter, the afternoon sun shining through the kitchen window. "You were wearing your yellow apron," she said slowly. "You had flour on your nose because we were baking cookies." "Yes," Noah jumped excitedly. "Dinosaur cookies. And you let me add extra chocolate chips even though the recipe didn't call for it." Such moments of recognition were precious, but the path was marked by just as many painful setbacks. The medical team constantly worked to find the right balance between stimulation and rest. "The brain is like a muscle," Dr. Chen explained during a session. "We need to exercise it, but also give it time to recover." Stimulation techniques varied daily. Songs Emily used to sing to Noah, specific scents from key moments, familiar textures. Each sense was a doorway to potentially awaken lost memories. A major breakthrough occurred during an aromatherapy session. The smell of lavender, seemingly insignificant, triggered a cascade of recollections. "The garden," Emily whispered, tears sliding down her cheeks. "We had a small garden in London. Noah helped me water the plants. He had a blue watering can with clouds painted on it." Jack quickly searched his phone and found a picture of exactly that moment. Noah, about 3 years old, proudly watering a small lavender patch. The sessions began to get more specific, focusing on particular periods or major events. Linda brought the dress Emily had worn to Noah's 4th birthday. Sarah shared videos she'd taken over the last few months, and Jack contributed emails and messages they had exchanged that summer in Paris. "It's like watching someone else's life," Emily admitted in a private session. "I know I'm the one in the photos, in the videos, but it's as if there's a glass wall between me and those memories. I can see them, but I can't feel them fully." Frustration sometimes flared up at unexpected moments. One afternoon, Noah showed Emily how she used to cut his sandwiches into dinosaur shapes. "Not like that, Mom," he gently corrected her when she tried to replicate the cut. "You always made the neck longer." The fork fell from Emily's hand with a clatter. "I should remember this," she whispered, her voice breaking. "These are such simple, important things. Why can't I remember?" Jack found a way to turn those frustrating moments into opportunities for healing. He started documenting not just old memories, but also the new ones they were creating. "Maybe not all the old memories will come back," he explained, showing Emily the new album he was putting together, "but we can make new ones that are just as special." The approach worked. Emily began to allow herself to live more fully in the present, even as she continued working to recover her past. Therapy sessions now included not only memory exercises, but also moments devoted to building new experiences. One day, during a particularly productive session, Emily started humming a tune while playing with Noah. She stopped abruptly, surprised. That song. She looked at Jack, eyes wide. I used to sing it to put him to sleep, didn't I? Every night, it was our routine. Somewhere over the rainbow, Jack confirmed, emotional. It was the only thing that calmed him during storms. It was as if a door had been opened. In the following weeks, more memories began to surface, some in vivid flashes, others in vague sensations, all contributing to reassemble the puzzle of her life. It feels like the memories have been sleeping, Emily told Dr. Patel in one session. And little by little, they're waking up. Some are still groggy, confused, but others are starting to come into focus. The medical team kept track of each improvement, adjusting her treatment as needed. Brain scans showed increased activity in previously dormant regions, and her cognitive tests revealed steady improvement. But perhaps the most significant sign of progress wasn't in the tests or scans, but in the small and everyday moments, like the time Emily automatically served Noah's cereal just the way he liked it, or completed a story Jack was telling about Paris by adding details she shouldn't have remembered. The memories are there, Dr. Patel reassured them. It's like a puzzle that's slowly putting itself together, piece by piece. Some pieces might take longer to find their place, and others might never fit perfectly, but the overall picture is forming. And so, day by day, memory by memory, Emily was rebuilding not just her past, but her sense of self. Each recovered memory was a victory. Each new moment with Noah and Jack was a treasure. Each day brought the promise of more connections to be re-established. One ordinary afternoon marked the first truly clear memory returning. Emily was in the hospital garden, watching Noah play with his plastic dinosaurs, when the distant sound of a child's laughter triggered something in her mind. "The playground," she whispered, her eyes wide with sudden clarity. "Noah, you fell off the slide when you were 3. You had on a Spider-Man t-shirt. I ran so fast." Noah paused his game, looking at her expectantly. "And you kissed my scraped knee," he added excitedly, "and said that a mom's kiss has magic powers." Emily covered her mouth, tears rolling down her cheeks. The memory was so vivid now, the sunny day, the moment of panic watching him fall, the relief when he smiled through his tears after her magic kiss. Jack, who had been watching closely, immediately called Dr. Martinez. The neurologist explained that such spontaneous recall was a very positive sign. "It's like her brain is finally finding alternative routes to access these memories," she said, taking detailed notes. "Each memory regained can trigger other connections." In the days that followed, more fragments surfaced. Sometimes they were tiny details. The song that played the first time Noah danced, the specific flavor of the ice cream he always ordered at the park, the texture of his favorite blanket. During a therapy session, Emily surprised everyone by reciting a rhyme she used at bedtime. "Little dino, so very brave, close your eyes, find dreams to save. Mommy is here, always will be, to watch your sleep so safe and free." "You used to say that every night," Noah exclaimed, jumping into her arms, "and you'd do this gentle hair-petting thing." He guided her hand in a familiar motion over his head. The touch triggered another wave of memories, stormy nights when Noah hid in her bed, lazy Sunday mornings with breakfast in bed, simple moments that now seemed extraordinarily precious. Jack watched these reconnections with a mix of joy and anxiety. "It's amazing to see you two like this," he told Linda during a coffee break. "But I'm scared of what will happen when the harder memories come back." Linda squeezed his hand gently. "Every memory is part of who she is, Jack, the good ones and the painful ones." She was right. Indeed, not all memories that returned were happy. One night, Emily woke up panicked, clearly recalling the moment she first noticed the symptoms of her illness. "I was so scared," she confessed in therapy. "Not for what would happen to me, but for Noah. The thought of leaving him alone." Dr. Patel helped Emily process these more difficult memories, while Jack and Noah provided the emotional support she needed. Daily routines began to take on new meaning as old memories blended with new experiences. One morning, Emily automatically prepared Noah's cereal exactly the way he liked it. Just a little extra milk, sliced bananas, and an extra drizzle of honey. "You remembered," Noah exclaimed, eyes shining. My body remembered. Emily smiled, realizing she'd done it all instinctively. It's like some things aren't just in my head but in my heart too. Jack started bringing more objects and photos from Emily's apartment in London. Each item had the potential to spark memories. A scarf knitted by Mrs. Patel, Noah's first shoes, a meticulously kept scrapbook. "Look, Mom," Noah pointed to a page in the scrapbook. "This is us at the zoo. You were afraid of the giraffe." The memory came in flashes. The hot day, melting ice cream, the giraffe's impossibly long neck stretching toward her. "You weren't scared of anything," she recalled with a laugh. "You wanted to feed all the animals." Therapy sessions now included more practical activities. Emily and Noah cooked together, recreating old recipes. Jack joined in, sharing stories of Paris and bridging the temporal gaps. A particularly powerful moment happened when Emily discovered an old music box. When she opened it, the melody of "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" filled the room. "This was the first gift I bought for Noah," she said softly, the memory now crystal clear. "I just found out I was pregnant. I was alone in Paris, but when I heard that song in the shop, I knew I'd never really be alone again." Jack felt his heart clench. How many moments like that had he missed? How many small decisions, choices and memories had shaped his son's life before he even knew of his existence? But Emily, as if sensing his thoughts, took his hand. "We can't change the past," she said gently, "but we can make new memories, all of us together." The medical team noted significant improvements in her scans. The areas of her brain once affected showed signs of recovery, and her ability to form new memories was growing stronger. "It's like her brain is rebuilding bridges, Doctor," Martinez explained, pointing to the updated images. "Some old, some new, but all leading to the same place: her memories, her identity, her story." Noah, in his childlike wisdom, had his own explanation. "It's like when I lose a Lego piece, Mom. Sometimes we find it under the couch. Sometimes we have to use a different piece, but in the end the toy still gets built." And so, day after day, piece by piece, Emily's life was being reassembled. Some memories returned in vivid bursts. Others came slowly, like photographs gradually developing. Every recalled memory was a treasure, every moment of reconnection a victory. One particularly meaningful afternoon, Emily was able to tell Noah, without any help from photos or prompts, the full story of his birth. The first contractions in London, the rush to the hospital, the overwhelming emotion of holding him for the first time. "You were so small," she said, voice thick with emotion. "But your eyes were exactly like Jack's." That was the first time in months I didn't feel alone. Jack, watching mother and son embrace, realized this might be the real miracle, not just the recovery of old memories, but the ability to create new ones, heal old wounds, and build a future together. And as the sun set through the hospital window, casting golden shadows on the small family gathered there, Emily held her son with one arm and Jack's hand with the other, feeling truly whole for the first time in a long while. The family therapy room had a different atmosphere that morning. The winter sun streamed through the large windows, illuminating the space where Emily, Jack, Noah and Linda sat with Dr. Sarah Bennett, the family therapist who had been guiding them for weeks. "Today," Dr. Bennett began, "we're going to talk about the future. Emily has regained much of her memory, and it's time to discuss how to move forward as a family." Emily, considerably stronger after months of treatment, held Noah's hand while looking at Jack. The last few weeks had not only restored her memories, but given her a deeper understanding of every decision she had made in the past. "I remember everything now," she began softly. "Every choice, every fear, every moment of doubt. But I also remember the love, so much love that it sometimes hurt to keep it to myself." Jack leaned forward in his chair. "The past has left its mark on all of us, but maybe those scars can make us stronger if we let them." Noah, fiddling with his beloved T-Rex, looked between his parents with a child's peculiar wisdom. "Like when I hurt my knee and it left a little scar. You said it was a bravery medal, Mom." Emily smiled through tears. "Exactly, sweetheart." The session continued, each family member sharing their fears and hopes. Linda spoke of her regret for encouraging Emily to keep Noah away from Jack, acknowledging how her own fear and bitterness had shaped her decisions. "I just wanted to protect you," she admitted, looking at her daughter. "But sometimes overprotecting can hurt too." The conversation turned to practical matters. Jack had bought a new home, bigger and warmer than his minimalist penthouse. "There's a room for each of us," he explained, showing pictures on his phone, "and a garden where we can plant lavender, like you had in London." Emily felt her heart warm as she saw Noah excitedly pointing to his soon-to-be bedroom. "Can we paint it green, so it matches dinosaurs?" "Of course, champ," Jack said with a grin. "We can do anything we want. It's a new beginning." Dr. Bennett guided the discussion to the challenges still ahead. The Thompson family had yet to be fully confronted. Richard and Victoria still hadn't officially met Noah. "They asked to see us," Jack said cautiously. "They want to try to make things right." Emily took a deep breath, her memories now clear about how they had treated her in the past. "People can change," she finally said. "We changed. Planning for the future included decisions about Noah's education, living arrangements, and most importantly, how to balance Jack's career with the family life they were building. I've hired a CEO to handle daily operations of the company," Jack announced, surprising everyone. "I'll remain chairman of the board, but I don't want to miss any more important moments with you." The news sparked a discussion about Emily's own plans. With her health improving and her memories restored, she was considering restarting her editing career. "The publisher in London offered me remote work," she revealed. "I can work from home, be here for Noah, and still keep my independence." Linda, who had been silent for a while, spoke up. Maybe I could help with Noah after school, if you'd like." The offer hung in the air, laden with significance. It was more than a practical favor. It was a plea for redemption, a chance to rebuild burned bridges. "I'd like that," Emily smiled at her mother. "Noah loves your stories." The session continued with discussions of healthy boundaries, creating new family traditions, and keeping communication open. Dr. Bennett watched with satisfaction as each family member tried to find their place in the new arrangement. "Scars don't go away," she commented as the session ended, "but they can remind us of how strong we are, of what we've overcome." Later that day at home, Emily found Jack in the garden, watching Noah play with Sarah, who had become an indispensable part of their lives. "Sometimes I wonder," she said softly, "if everything that happened was exactly what needed to happen. If we needed that time, those experiences, to become who we needed to be for each other." Jack took her hand, interlacing their fingers. "Maybe. But now we have all the time in the world to be whoever we want to be. Together." Noah ran over to them, his eyes glowing with that endless childhood energy. "Can we plant flowers now?" "Sarah said it's the right time." Emily exchanged a smile with Jack. "Sure, honey. How about we start our own memory garden? We can plant something new for each special moment we share." The idea caught on. In the following days, small sprouts began to appear in the garden. Lavender to remember London, daisies that Noah insisted were dinosaur flowers, roses Jack recalled from their first date in Paris. It was a new kind of healing, different from medical treatments, a healing that came from creating something new together, transforming scars into stories of overcoming, building a future on the strengthened foundations of the past. And as they watched their little garden grow, Emily, Jack, and Noah discovered that some of the most beautiful flowers could bloom where once there had been only pain. The scars in their hearts, like the marks in the soil where they planted new memories, were merely the start of something more beautiful to come. The sunset painted the Manhattan sky in shades of pink and gold as Jack and Emily strolled through Central Park, their fingers naturally entwined. Noah ran ahead, chasing pigeons and laughing, his T-Rex plush securely in hand. "It's strange," Emily said, watching her son. "I have all these memories of him growing up, every precious moment we lived together. And now I have new memories forming, with you in each of them." Jack gave her hand a gentle squeeze. "Maybe this is how it was always meant to be." They stopped by the lake, where Noah was busy trying to convince his dinosaur to go fishing. They had decided to move to their new home the night before, during a simple dinner in Jack's penthouse. "Are you sure?" he had asked, after Noah fell asleep on the couch. exhausted from an afternoon spent planning his new room. This is a big step. Emily glanced around the apartment, which already showed clear signs of their presence. Noah's drawings on the fridge, toys scattered on the floor, fresh flowers she insisted on keeping on the dining table. "I've never been so sure," she answered. "It's time we start our story for real." Now watching Noah play in the park, that certainty only grew stronger. The move was set for the weekend, and the new house, a brownstone on the Upper East Side, was already being prepared to welcome them. "Dad!" Noah called, running back to them. "Rex wants to know if he can have an aquarium in his room too." Jack knelt to meet his son at eye level. "I think Rex will have to share the aquarium with you, champ. How about that?" Noah's face lit up. "With colorful fish." "The most colorful we can find," Emily promised, ruffling his hair. The walk back home was filled with excited plans. Noah had very specific ideas about his room: a dinosaur mural on the wall, star-like lights on the ceiling, and a Jeep-shaped bed. "What about our room?" Jack asked Emily gently when Noah got distracted by a passing dog. Emily's heart fluttered at the word "our." This love, rebuilt between them, was still new and precious. "Something simple," she replied, "but with a big armchair by the window, so we can read stories when Noah visits us in the morning." On moving night, after hours of unpacking, and with dozens of boxes still unopened, they found a moment of peace in the backyard garden. Noah had finally fallen asleep in his new room, surrounded by dinosaurs and the soft glow of ceiling stars. "I remember the first time I saw you," Jack said softly, as they sat on a garden bench beneath the first stars of the evening. "At the cafe near NYU. You spilled coffee on my shirt. And you asked for my number instead of the laundry bill," Emily finished, laughing. "I thought you were crazy." "Maybe I was. Crazy about you." The silence that followed was comfortable, filled with both old and new memories. A gentle breeze carried the scent of the first flowers they had planted together: lavender, roses, and daisies, forming a small oasis of color and fragrance. "You know what amazes me most?" Emily asked, leaning back against Jack's chest. "How love can take so many different forms. The love I felt for you in Paris, the unconditional love for Noah, and now, this more mature, deeper love we're building." Jack kissed the top of her head. "A love that's weathered storms and still blossomed." A noise from the house caught their attention. Noah appeared at the patio door, sleepy and dragging his T-Rex. "I can't sleep," he mumbled. "Rex is scared of the new room." Emily and Jack shared a knowing smile. "Come here, buddy," Jack called, making space for him on the bench. Noah snuggled in between them, his small body fitting perfectly in the gap. Together, they watched the stars pop into the Manhattan night sky one by one. "Look, a shooting star," Noah pointed excitedly. "Make a wish," Emily whispered, hugging her son. Noah squeezed his eyes shut, focusing on his wish. When he opened them again, his face wore a calm smile. "I don't need to wish for anything," he declared with a child's deep simplicity. "I already have everything I wanted." Jack felt tears welling up. Emily reached over Noah's shoulders to intertwine her fingers with Jack's. In that moment, under the starry Manhattan sky, they were simply a family. Not the Thompsons, not the Millers, just a family united by a love that had survived time, distance, and forgetting. Their new home gradually came to life with their presence. Jack's office now had a wall dedicated to Noah's drawings. The kitchen constantly smelled of Emily's attempts at recreating French recipes. The garden flourished under the family's shared care, each new flower a celebration of their reclaimed love. Mornings were filled with laughter during chaotic breakfasts, afternoons with homework and work meetings adapted to include family moments, and nights. Nights were for stories, for planning the future, for love. "Sometimes I wonder," Emily mused one evening after they'd tucked Noah in, "if all we went through was necessary to bring us here, to make us value every moment, every little joy." Jack pulled her closer. "Maybe so, but what matters is that we're here now, and I'm never letting you go again." The future stretched before them like a blank book, waiting to be filled with new stories, new adventures, new moments of love and discovery. And while the city slept outside, in that house, One family celebrated their reclaimed love, a love that, like the stars in the night sky, had always been there, shining patiently.